Hi, Candy here. This video is going to be about unconscious relationships because I know a lot more about those than I do conscious relationships. And yeah, this ought to be quite fun, a fun video to do. The thought came to me, how do you learn? How is it that you learn that it really hits home for you to apply that knowledge into your lifestyle? And when I was young, my dad, there was a few things that he really went over and over and over with me. And I feel like now I'm like, wow, he really invested time and energy on these things to make sure they wouldn't happen to me. One was running out of gas. I mean, he almost preached to me in a way. And so it'd be over and over and over, especially when I was approaching 16. Now, don't you run out of gas. I don't want you to call me and tell me that you've run out of gas. How many gas stations you going to be passing? When you get to a quarter tank or even a little more than that, fill your tank up, and never just put $5 or $10 in and be like, just fill it up. That's one example. When I found regenerative detoxification in 2015 in the spring, I had been a single parent since 2013, pretty much, and didn't think about men, didn't think about wanting to meet a man or, cultivating a relationship or finding a partner, nothing like that. I was so into what I had found and working it and getting it that's just what wasn't on my, my thoughts. There was a video that he did, and, maybe I've only heard him say 2 times, like very lightly, about the differences in eating styles between a partnership and how, he goes, well, you might be miserable. I remember him saying that once in one of them, or, it may not work very good. And he's like, well, I've always had trouble finding someone who ate the same way. I've never had another, high raw food person, or, someone that is conscious about food combining and that kind of thing. Anyway, so fast forward into 2020. In January, I was at a fruit festival in Ecuador, and there was a man there who's looking at everybody's charts just in a casual kind of way. And I asked if he'd look at mine, and he did. And he's like, whoa, you've been alone a lot, huh? And I was like, well, yeah, as a matter of fact, I have. I had been by myself for 10 years in between my 2 boys' dads. I had one in 1995, and then I had the other one in 2011. And so he goes, well, you may want to practice loving and love often. Something to that effect. That summer of 2020, I was at my mother's house, and her house cleaner was there, and she mentioned, oh, I'm going to something with my fiance. And I was like, fiance? I didn't know you were engaged. And she was like, yeah. I said, where'd you meet him? She said, Bumble. I said, what's that? She said, it's a dating app. So I looked into it, and I got on there. And I could do a stand-up comedy routine on that whole dealio. But anyway, nothing worked. I met a few nice men, and I really had a strong boundary for non-drinkers. I really did. I mean, I was like, that's a deal breaker. I had a lot of others too, which would be part of the stand-up comedy routine. But in December of 2020, I got someone messaging me on Facebook, and I had first met this person when I was about 15 or 16. And, I always thought he was cute. I kind of probably had a little crush on him, and just something about his mannerisms and the way his big smile. And then in our early 20s, we actually spent like a night or two together at this cabin with some friends that were going there to celebrate a birthday. There's that. Didn't hear from him, not one iota, for 30 years. And now it's important to take a look at how I got here, or got there. It's important to see how I got here, right? And there was all kind of flags, one being just how he simply messaged me through Messenger, messaged me through Facebook. It wasn't through Messenger. It was right up on my wall. Typos, the O and call me sometime is what he had put, and he did it like 3 or 4 times. And I have all notifications turned off. So I actually have to hit my button and then be scrolling up to ever see anything like that. So yeah, the O in sometime was capitalized, but nothing else was. And anyway, that's okay. I'm just simply sharing. And then he started calling me. Whenever I shared with him my number through Messenger, I was like, hey, this is how we'll talk through here. And then gave him my number. And he would call me almost every night from his car, drinking, and then he would fall asleep, or like with the radio going, and that's it. And a lot of talking about the past and telling me old stories over and over and over. And anyway, and then then he wouldn't always pay his cell phone bill. And so, right then around Christmas, I think it was December 25th, that there was a big cell phone thing, dealio, with a tower downtown, and a bunch of cell phone providers didn't have service. Or maybe it was just, I don't know. Anyway, so, yeah. And then, so I end up meeting him, and, I'm saying, so it seems like there's a big craze on acceptance and allowing, or whatever, and allowing one to be like as they are, or accepting someone as they are and what they eat. And what this was, is it ended up being like a 2-year profound learning experience. And I now know what I deserve and what I choose. And, I look at it as, I was wanting to upgrade him from the get-go. The mouth breathing was so let's say that one has weak adrenals and they have a lot of anxiety. Well, if they had done enough cleansing and strengthening, working on themselves and just transitioning their diet off of very offensive foods, highly processed, packaged food-like substances, that would definitely go away easy. And so there was extreme anxiety, and I deserve someone who's done, as much, or at least half of what I've done. And if they had any anxiety, I'd choose someone that's healed that. And if they had any anger, I choose someone who's worked through that and detox that out. Anger is stemmed from the liver. That's where it's held onto that. And so remove the cause. It's really that simple. And what I want to drive home here is this acceptance thing, because what I'm going to say is I'll accept from afar and understand my values is what I've really zoned in on, and taken this time now to heal from trauma. And one thing was, I did not know. Well, I went on and invited him to move in with me. Whoa. And I did not know that the man had never performed cunnilingus. He had never went down on a woman. He had not done oral sex, and he was not that into it. He wasn't that open about it. It was a pretty big argument, and I attempted to dissolve the relationship right then. I enjoy it, I like it, and to me it's kind of part of foreplay. I enjoy pleasuring my man with oral sex as well. So yeah, he ended up going to work and talking to his 70-something-year-old boss, and she's like, well, I guess you better get home and eat, and so, yeah. And he would make these very twisted concept on it too. Like, well, more people do cocaine than eat pussy. I disagree. And then I've never, ever done sugar booger, whatever they call it. I've never done that. It always seemed very vulgar to me, and I don't need no stimulants. Yeah, and then that's another thing, you know, I'd walked up to his door and looked in, and there was a mirror laying out with lines all the way across it. Not my thing. Not into that. Not impressed at all. And like I said, so why did I allow? You know, I was like, I feel like sometimes there was those words in my head, you know, practice loving, just love them all, love openly, you know, and you can be supple for sure. And you can even be accepting. However, I don't have to share time or space or energy exchange with this type of toxic being, you know, especially when I've really done a lot of work on myself. And, you know, I feel like I'm an alchemist, you know. I definitely get it, I guess is what I'm gonna say. And like, the mouth breathing, lots of snoring, and that's from processed foods. It's neurotoxins as well. His speech would be slurred just after one or a half of one those energy drinks, and so he got off those. He smoked cigars. I'm not down with smoking, and I do not would choose to be with a chronic weed smoker either. I'm gonna wrap it up because I feel like that's enough to get it to share that I would advise being careful about acceptance, you know, accept myself, and I have everything I need within to heal. I am doing some work though with a group and rewriting my story. I'm looking forward to that workshop. Yeah, cleanse and strengthen, and it's an unraveling process. So yeah, profound learning experience. Thank you.